So we've looked at the law of sines and found one missing piece of information, but now we want to be able to use the law of sines to find all missing pieces of our triangle. So here we have our triangle, KHP. We know H is 20.6, P is 77.4, and our K is 25.4. So I'm going to draw a picture. So I'm going to start with the angle that I know, which is 20.6. Where you could start with a 77.4. So I'm going to draw an angle that looks around 20 degrees to me. It doesn't need to be super precise. It's just a general gist of what's happening. Okay. So then we've got P is 77.4. So since this one's obtuse, I'm going to put P there. Technically won't matter even if you put it in the spot that's obtuse, even though it's an acute angle, because you're just using this to help you visualize. But just know that that could be confusing if you have done it that way. So then our K is the last angle, and then the side is the 25.4. So notice here on this one, remember the idea with law of sines is that you're wanting to find a side and an angle across from each other that you know, and a side and an angle across from each other that you're missing. Okay? So one piece of the information. So here, if I look here, I've got this side, that's the only side that I have, but I don't have this angle across from it. But notice I've got these two angles, which means that we know there's 180 degrees in a triangle, so I can find angle K. So the first thing I'm gonna do is find angle K by doing 180 minus the 20.6 minus the 77.4. So I need to use that piece of information to get to my law of sines. So if we do that, that's not what I wanted to do. There we go. We're going to do 180 minus the 20.6 minus the 77.4. So that gives us the angle K is 82 degrees. Okay. So I can put 82 there. It's getting a little squishy in my triangle, but it still is going to work for our purposes. So now that I have that angle, I've got this side and angle across from each other that I know that piece of information. And then when we're solving a triangle, when we solve the triangle, this is true for when we had right triangles as well, and it said solve the triangle, you're finding all missing pieces of information. So all missing angles, all missing sides that you don't have. Okay, so I don't have this side and I don't have this side. We originally didn't have this angle, but we already found that. So I need to find these two sides. So I'm just going to pick one of the sides. It doesn't matter. It's what we call arbitrary. There's no rhyme or reason behind why we picked which one. So I'm going to pick side P first. So remember, this is side P, and this is side H. Whoops, not capital H, lowercase h, because it's across from the angle H or across from the angle P. So I picked P. So we're going to do our ratios of the side, so the 25.4 over the sine of the angle, so sine 82 equals P over sine P, which is 77.4. Okay. So there's two steps that I could go from here. I could do my cross multiplying because we have a fraction equal to a fraction. Remember, you're only doing cross multiplying if you have a fraction equal to a fraction. You don't do it when you're adding and subtracting fractions. I could also just think, well, I'm trying to get this P by itself, so I need to undo dividing, so I could undo dividing by multiplying. So if we do the cross multiplying, we would have the 25.4 sine 77.4 equals P sine 82. And then in this step, I would think, well, I need to get P by itself. So P is being multiplied by sine 82, so I would divide by sine 82. So then this is what I need to put in my calculator. If we're looking from this step and I'm saying, oh, I just need to multiply the side by sine 77.4, I'm just going to multiply both sides by sine 77.4 and sine 77.4. So these cancel. So then I just end up with 25.4 sine 77.4 over sine 82 equals P. Which notice, when we cancel this part out, we end up with P equaling the 25.4 sine of 77.4 over sine of 82. So it's really the same thing. It's two different ways of thinking about it, but they get you to the same spot. So now let's just make sure we've got the proper calculator skills. So you need to make sure that your mode is in degree. So mine is there. So we're going to do 25.4 sine of 77.4. And then you have to make sure to close that parentheses. If you don't close that parenthesis, it's going to give you the wrong answer because you told it to do the wrong thing. So then we're going to divide by sine of 82, and you can close your parenthesis. If you neglect the parenthesis at the end of 82, it's negligible, meaning that it's not super impactful because there's nothing after that. Okay. If I did another operation after that, it would be imperative, meaning that you have to do that I close the parenthesis after the 82. Okay. So then here we get that side P is 25.032. Okay. So now I have two of my three sides and all of my three angles. So I still need to find side H. So I need to set up another proportion. Now notice here, I'm going to erase this second one that we did over here so that we have space for our other one. Now, if we had a right triangle, we could use the Pythagorean theorem to find that third side. But this is not a right triangle, so you cannot use the Pythagorean theorem. The Pythagorean theorem only works with right triangles. So instead, I have to do the law of sines again. Now, you can use the ratio that you just came up with the 25 and the 77.4. I just generally prefer to use the one that was already given to us. So I like to use, I forgot to color coordinate these for you. I like to use my original one, which is the orange ratio instead of the yellow ratio. So I'm going to do the 25.4 over the sine of 82 equals, and then this time I'm looking for H. So H over sine 20.6. Okay. We have that same kind of setup here. We're doing that ratio on this one. So we have that same kind of setup where our variable is on top, so I can just get rid of this by multiplying. So that would be 25.4 sine of 20.6 over sine 82 equals H. Okay. Now, the variable's not, because we were solving for sides on both of these, the variable ended up being on the top. Okay. If the variable is not on the top, like it was here, we were solving for an angle, I prefer to use the cross multiply. So we do 13 sine y equals 5 sine 46, and then here I'm trying to get the sine y by itself first, and then the y by itself, so I have to divide by the 13. So then I get sine y is 5 sine 46 divided by 13. Well, then to undo sine, I take the inverse sine of both sides. So this would be the inverse sine and the inverse sine. And then when I go to take the inverse sine of this, I make sure in my calculator that I use second answer so that I don't get a rounding error. And then that gives us our 16.062. Okay. So solving for your angles are a little bit lengthier in process because you have to get the variable, the sine by itself first, and then get the variable by itself by undoing the sine, whereas solving for the side is a little bit quicker. Okay. But it's still not difficult, it's just a little bit longer. Okay. So we're going to put this in our calculator, so 25.4 sine of 20.6, and then divided by sine of 82. So that gives us that side H is 9.025. So notice we had our angle that we were missing and then our two sides that we were missing. So we had three pieces of information that we needed to find. So the only thing that you're doing different between finding just one piece of information and finding the entire triangle is that you just have more things that you need to do in order to finish it.